So you're a buyer and you're planning to buy your next home. When it's time to choose your realtor that you want to work with as a buyer's agent, it'd be reasonable to expect that the agent that you choose is going to be loyal to you and is going to be looking out for your interests only. But is that actually a safe assumption? The answer is no. See, in Florida, there's three different types of agency relationships that a buyer can have with a realtor. So it's very easy to go with an agent that's not going to give you the level of representation that you would expect. So today I'm going to cover the three different agency types so that you can make the best choice on which type of agent that you want to work with in buying your next home. All right, let's dive in. So there's three different categories of agents that buyers work with here in the state of Florida. There is transactional agents, there's single agents, and then there's no brokerage relationship agents. So let's dive into transactional agents first. All right, so a transactional agent is actually the default agency relationship that realtors have with a buyer here in the state of Florida. So it's a relationship where the realtor only works for the transaction, not for the buyer specifically. So the realtor's objective in this situation is for the buyer and the seller to come to an agreement and work towards a successful closing. But as a transactional agent, the realtor's not actually working for the buyer, but rather for the transaction. So I know that's not really what a lot of people are used to. It's not what you expect, but it's actually what you get. That's the default relationship that you have. And there's specific duties that that transactional agent's going to have with you as the buyer. So the duties of a transactional agent are dealing honestly and fairly, and let's face it, who wants a dishonest realtor? Accounting for the funds of the transaction, just making sure none of the money is lost. Obviously, that's really important, but it's pretty basic. Using skilled care and diligence in the transaction, that's kind of assumed. Disclosing any known facts, that may or may not be visible to the buyer, and also presenting offers timely. That's an important duty. And lastly, limited confidentiality between the client and the listing side. So that's really it. That's the default relationship in Florida. This is the relationship that I would not recommend that a buyer go with. What you didn't hear in that was loyalty to the client, which is, in my mind, the number one most important thing a realtor should have with their client. Who wants to work with an agent that's not loyal to them? You know what I mean? Also, I'm sure most customers would want to scratch the limited confidentiality and instead replace it with full confidentiality, meaning that their realtor will protect them, not share any details about them to the seller or to the listing agent that might affect their ability or might affect negotiations, negatively. Also, a transactional agent's duties make no mention of the word obedience, simply meaning that the agent does what the customer asks them to do. Now that leads us into the second type of agency relationship, which is a single agent deal. The main difference between a transactional agent and a single agent is that with a single agent relationship, it's a written agreement. It's representation that also pledges the loyalty, the full confidentiality, and the obedience to their client. It also means that the single agent has that fiduciary responsibility to the client. So the agent is only working for the client. They're not working both sides of the deal, and they're only focused on earning the best possible terms for their own client. What does this really mean, though? It just means that the client found the agency relationship that they expected to receive all along. In my experience, most buyers want discreet conversations with their realtor about, I don't know whether or not the community is the best choice for their needs. They want to know, what price they should offer to the seller. They want to know what the realtor feels. Are they overpaying for this property? What price is considered a steal? They want to be able to talk about additional terms that their realtor suggests that might benefit them that they might not even have thought about. Also, most buyers want their agent to protect their confidential information, not share anything about them unless they gave permission to do so. Any small detail could have severe consequences for a buyer in that negotiation. Also, I believe one of the what most buyers really expect is that the realtor does exactly what they ask them to do, and that's the obedience. If a buyer says, hey, I understand there's multiple offers, I want you to present my offer to the seller in person. A buyer should be able to expect that their buyer's agent's going to do that and won't just email it over anyway. The transactional agent's not required to be obedient. So a transactional agent is restricted to only provide sterile, neutral info. At the end of the day, there's a huge difference between a single agent and a transactional agent. Lastly, let's talk about no brokerage relationship. And that's really a non-representation situation where the broker is not really representing the customer and the brokerage firm is simply facilitating processing a deal. There's no representation of any kind. All right, so now let's briefly talk about compensation for the buyer's agent. Who pays it? So as of August 2024, there's government regulation now that it was actually done on a national level that says that all buyers are now responsible for having their own written agreement with their buyer agent before showing any homes. So the written agreement needs to include what the buyer's agent duties are, along with details about how they're going to be compensated. So it's really the buyer's responsibility now to pay their buyer's agent, which is much different than buyers have been used to in the past. It's just really important to know that there are options for the buyer to have their agent fee credited by the seller. If you're interested in hiring us as your buyer's agent, we're going to thoroughly discuss all of your options. So I plan to do another video soon just addressing buyer's agent compensation because there's a lot to uncover there. If you're interested in that, be sure to hit subscribe now, hit that notification bell, and then you're going to be notified when we release new videos. So now what happens if a buyer calls the listing agent direct? That's actually, a lot of people would think about that as like a dual agency. That's actually a transactional agency relationship, or it could be a no brokerage relationship. It just depends on how the listing agent's going to handle it. One thing's for sure, it's not going to be a single agency relationship, and that's the type of relationship that you're really looking for as a buyer. If you would like to learn why you don't really want to do that in more detail, be sure to check out the video that I'm going to be releasing soon on dual agency. So the Sarasota Homes Group has actually put together a 62-page buyer's guide. It covers absolutely everything that you can imagine about buying a home here in Sarasota, Florida. And it starts from the initial phone call that you make with a buyer's agent all the way through closing. It covers every aspect of the process, includes all these buyer changes with buyer's agency and compensation. It includes caveats that you have to be careful about when you're a buyer and you're looking at properties, and then it goes through the entire process. So if that's interesting to you, check the link below for our online buyer's guide. You can click that link and it will bring you instantly to the guide that you can browse online. If you want the best experience, it's vital to choose a buyer's agent that works with you as a single agent, representing your interests only. It's a huge financial investment. Don't miss the opportunities to be represented to the fullest extent to ensure that you're getting the best neighborhood for you at the best possible price and the best other terms that are best for you. So call us today. Let's learn about your search. I'd love to learn more about what you're looking for. Happy to answer all your questions about real estate here in Sarasota. If you found this video helpful, hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. That way you'll never miss out on our future video. On behalf of the Sarasota Homes Group and my team, thanks for watching.